Astarion was never meant to survive that night. In the shadows of Baldur's Gate lies a tragedy deeper than any wound a vampire's bite could leave. A story not merely of monsters and magic, but of power, trauma, and a soul stretched thin across centuries of suffering. This is the story of Astarion. Before blood and darkness claimed his name, Astarion was human, a magistrate of Baldur's Gate, eloquent, respected, confident in the belief that law and reason could impose order on chaos. He believed in justice, in systems, in the idea that the world could be shaped into something fair if only the right people held power. That belief would cost him everything. One night, he was taken. Abducted from the city he served by Cazador Szarr, a vampire lord who ruled not through fear alone, but through absolute control. Astarion was killed without ceremony, his life extinguished as easily as a candle flame. And then, he was brought back, not as a man, but as a spawn. From that moment on, Astarion ceased to belong to himself. His body healed, his heart no longer beat, and his existence became an extension of Cazador's will. He was not granted immortality as a gift. It was a sentence, one designed to last forever. The centuries that followed were not a blur. They were painfully vivid. For 700 years, Astarion endured torture that reshaped him from the inside out. He was starved, beaten, buried, burned, punished not for rebellion, but often for amusement. Cazador demanded obedience, and when obedience was given, demanded suffering anyway. Pain became routine. Hope became dangerous. He was forced to seduce, to lure victims back to the Szarr palace, to smile while delivering innocents into slaughter. Each death carved another scar into what remained of his conscience. Resistance was impossible. The runes carved into his back ensured it. Ancient magic bound his thoughts, his movements, even his hunger to his master's command. Astarion was not held by chains. He was held by his own flesh. He could not refuse an order, could not disobey, could not even speak freely. His body moved when commanded, froze when ordered to stillness. Autonomy was a memory so distant it felt like fiction. Over time, survival demanded adaptation. He learned to perform, to smile, to mock, to turn pain into wit, fear into arrogance. The mask was born. But masks crack under pressure, and Astarion lived under pressure every waking moment. His mind fractured, not completely, but enough to survive. Empathy dulled, trust became impossible, vulnerability became lethal. Every connection was temporary. Everyone was a potential weapon in someone else's hand. And then, impossibly, everything changed. When the nautiloid crashed and the illithid parasite was forced into his skull, Astarion gained something he had not felt in centuries: silence. The commands stopped. The runes lost their grip. For the first time since his death, Cazador's voice was gone. Freedom arrived not with triumph, but with confusion. 700 years of obedience does not vanish overnight. Astarion did not know how to exist without orders. Freedom felt fragile, like something that could be taken away at any moment. And perhaps that is why he clung to it so desperately, even when it meant manipulating those around him. The hunger soon followed. Vampiric hunger is not simple thirst. It is invasive, constant. A whisper that grows louder the longer it is ignored. When Astarion tries to feed on the player, it is not cruelty. It is panic. A reflex born from centuries of deprivation. He does not yet trust that survival no longer requires permission. What we see as betrayal is actually fear. As the journey continues, cracks begin to form in his mask. Beneath the sarcasm and flirtation lies a man who does not understand consent, kindness, or safety. because none of those things ever existed for him. When offered trust, he does not know how to accept it. When offered care, he suspects a trap. Because in his world, kindness was always the prelude to pain. Eventually, Astarion is forced to confront the source of his trauma. Cazador is not just his past. He is his future, waiting patiently to reclaim what he believes is his. And when the ritual of ascension is revealed, the temptation becomes overwhelming. Power, true power, the chance to never be helpless again. Ascension promises freedom from fear, from hunger, from vulnerability itself. It promises dominance, the ability to stand above others rather than beneath them. For someone who has been powerless for 7 centuries, the appeal is undeniable. But power gained through cruelty always demands a price. If Astarion ascends, he does not simply defeat Cazador. He replaces him. The cycle does not end. It continues, refined, justified, reborn. The man who once feared becoming a monster embraces monstrosity as armor. He survives. But something essential is lost. Humanity cannot coexist with absolute control. If he refuses ascension, the outcome is quieter, harder. He remains vulnerable to the sun, to hunger, to fear. But he keeps something far more precious than power: choice. The ability to decide who he will be rather than who he must become. For the first time, his future is uncertain. And for the first time, it is his. Astarion's story is not about vampires. It is about trauma, how it warps identity, how it reshapes morality, how survival instincts linger long after the danger has passed. It asks an uncomfortable question: when someone has been broken by cruelty, is becoming cruel a failure or a defense? There is no easy answer, and that is why his tragedy resonates. Because beneath the fangs and shadows, Astarion is painfully human. A man struggling to reclaim himself from centuries of abuse. A survivor torn between the safety of power and the risk of freedom. In the end, his story is not about what he becomes. It is about what he refuses to let die. And perhaps that spark, fragile, stubborn, defiant, is what makes his tragedy unforgettable. But another story awaits.